Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Two Saints podcast show. Yes, we are back after our little sabbatical at the Euros. Just going to introduce you to my co-host, Mark H. How you doing, Mark? Good to be back, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good to be back. As I say, it's always good to be back. Season's about to start. Obviously, we're doing a couple of reviews. We've got loads coming up in the podcast show, and yeah, it's good to be back. As I say, I hope everyone's taking care of one another, and still be kind to one another. But looking forward to the new season, mate.
Absolutely, me too. So, a reminder of the Two Saints Classic League and head-to-head league codes for the Fantasy Premier League for this season. 2 leagues, everybody, and I have it on good authority from my co-host. There's going to be a trophy at the end of it, so definitely get involved in that. So, the codes you're going to need for the Classic League, MQAFOS, and for the head-to-head league, I4FD0Y. And if you want to get involved in that, go to fantasypremierleague.com, the Two Saints podcast show. Get involved in both those leagues. As I said, trophy at the end of it, so definitely worth getting involved. I can't wait. I'm going to smash everyone. No, I'm only joking. Anyway, so the show email address for you for any questions or ideas you may have for future shows is the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com. And the ways to listen to the podcast version of the Two Saints show are coming up now. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints podcast show is now available via Spotify, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. Right, so coming up in the first half of the show, we have pre-season Saints 1, Saints 3, Swansea 1, and Saints Club news. So we're going to start in a minute with the Two Saints review of Swansea 1, Saints 3. We're just going to take a very short break. We'll be right back.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, the Two Saints review of Swansea 1, Saints 3. Yep, Saints winning again in Wales, Mark. Part of their pre-season, obviously. Pretty emphatic, I think you could probably say. I know pre-season games, it's not really about the scoreline, is it? It's more about the minutes. But came through it unscathed, no major injuries. Got to be good news.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think obviously it was a little bit of a ropey start. Obviously, Mohamed Salisu, managed to slice one into his own net, and thankfully we weren't behind for very long because Nathan Teller, obviously within 60 seconds of that basically happening, scored for us down the other end, put the ball between the keeper's legs. So that's the
In fairness, it only takes him about 60 seconds to get from one end of the pitch to the other anyway, doesn't it?
I mean, he's quick. No doubt he's quick. And then obviously, within 9 minutes of obviously going behind, Saints have gone in front because we had Nathan Redmond, scoring with a low shot on 24 minutes. And then obviously, Stuart Armstrong completed the scoring basically before a raft of substitutes on the hour. But as you say, Mark, it's never a bad time for to get wins on the board. I do think that, in terms of, who we're facing during the pre-season, I do think the biggest test will come when Athletic Club turn up. For those that don't know, that's Athletic Bilbao, by the way.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Although Carl Walker Peters does say they're starting to gel.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is like, as much as you can sort of gel in pre-season, yeah, I would probably say they are. I mean, I know we're going to be coming on to it in a minute, but it certainly would seem that they probably don't look too disjointed, which is, you would hope bodes well even going into the first season, first fixture of the season. I know obviously that there's, a lot of water, and we're going to be coming on to that as well in a minute. There'll probably be a lot of water that's passed under the bridge between now, the start of the season, and the end of the window. So at the end of the day, it's 3-1. It's a good win. Keeps momentum going in the camp, and at this stage, you would feel fairly optimistic going into the new season,
Yeah, and then obviously off the back of the Swansea game, we then played Levante, obviously at home. Ran out 1-0 winners. Carl Walker-Peters firing the only goal in the win over them. He had a really good game, actually. Roman Ferraro had a good game, first sort of appearance properly that everyone's sort of seen him, really. The fans have, anyway. Rafa said it was an important test, and Romeu said he was encouraged by a solid performance. Yeah, I would say solid, not spectacular, but got the job done. Another win on the board, so it helps with momentum and confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
More importantly, the players coming through it are looking quite fit, and the counter-attacks are looking quite fast.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I kind of took from the game, well, there was a few things that I took from the game, was obviously Kyle Walker's finish, Walker-Peters' finish for the goal that separated the two sides. I mean, he initiated the attack, and then he finished the job off with good aplomb. From the other stuff that I've seen, Salisu impressed me. I mean, they had a live stream on the website, and I'm assuming that you watched some of that. I watched all of it, of course. But I think Perraud, whatever, Romain Perraud. I mean, a left back. The thing that I suppose impressed me most with him is he can cross a ball. I'm not sure about his defensive qualities, only because at no stage did I think Levante pressed or put any kind of pressure on the ball when Saints were in possession. And I think that for me was the most disappointing thing, because obviously they're the biggest test we've had so far, right?
Well, I think Perraud's a little bit like Salisu in the fact that he has got that little bit of pace that you might think, he's out of position. He's not, but he's actually got that ability to use that pace to get in the position he needs to be. And I know when you watch Salisu early days, he was kind of the same, wasn't he? He sort of came from nowhere. So I think with Perraud, he's got a little bit of pace, which I think we can probably utilise, definitely. And like you say, he does cross the ball well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not sure, because I didn't see enough of his defensive positioning for me. I mean, I'm assuming from what you're saying that he should have enough pace to be able to recover. I mean, look, at the end of the day, again, it's a little bit more of a step up than the opposition that we're playing. Like I said, it just kind of disappointed me that Levante, when we were in possession, there was no pressing of the football. So because they were sort of backing off all the time, it didn't make for much of a friendly for me, really. Because
in all fairness as well, I think the other teams we're facing, a lot of the other teams we face, I mean, Swansea, Cardiff, Levante, Athletic, we're going to be facing next. Athletic Bilbao, we'll be facing next. These are teams that are all a lot further in their pre-season than we are, aren't they? But
yeah,
you would have tried a bit more of a test from Levante.
The championship sides are. Spain isn't, though. I mean, Spain, more or less, I think they kick off the week after us.
I think in the case of Levante, that showed, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you only can beat what's put in front of you, and Saints have done the job. It was a little bit more of a step up than what they were previously playing against, championship sides. So, again, it all bodes well, and let's keep the momentum going, I would say.
Athletic Bilbao, I think, was really going to be a test, and that's a bit more of an acid test, isn't it? I mean, it is a pre-season game. Okay, the scoreline doesn't mean an awful lot, but I mean, you'd probably like to see the first choice team that's going to start against Everton, really, wouldn't you? You'd like to see the strongest team out there, so you can assess as a fan what you're looking at. You know.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%.
But I'm not so sure if Ralph's going to play his strongest 11. To be fair.
Yeah.
I hope he does, but I'm not so sure.
Well, we'll wait and see on that one. But like I say, you know, at the end of the day, it does help with the momentum, and let's hope that we can push on from there. You know.
Absolutely.
Because all roads lead to Goodison.
Absolutely, Mark, they do. And let's hope it's a successful trip to Goodison for a change. I know you won't be going, so it'd be quite ironic if we actually get a win. Although I think you'll be kicking this out if we do. Anyway.
Oh, will I ever?
That's another topic for a later show after we've beaten Everton. Anyway, that brings us to the end of that section, everybody. So we're just going to take a very quick break. And when we come back, we're going to do Saints Club News.
You're listening to the Two Saints Show on Fiesta 95 FM with Mark C and Mark H.
Right, welcome back, everyone. So, Saints Club News, and we start with Ralph Hasenhüttl's reaction to Danny Ings' departure, Saints completing Livramento deal, reaction to Tino Livramento's signing by Southampton, Saints reveal 2021-22 away kit, Saints launch Hummel Travelwear range, Bury signs contract extension and departs on loan, match report Southampton FC women versus Lewis, Southampton women's report again, friendly win at Brighton, Watling joins Southampton FC, that's Kira Watling, watch Southampton FC women in pre-season, Saints Foundation to celebrate its 20th anniversary, Saints announce St Mary's improvements, supporter guidance for safely visiting St Mary's, Everton versus Saints, and a tribute to Terry Cooper. So starting with Ralph Hasenhüttl's thoughts and reflections on Danny Ings' departure, Mark. Direct quote from Ralph was, "We had a fantastic player over a few years who helped us a lot staying in the league. Finally, he decided he didn't want to sign a new contract for us. He decided to go somewhere else, which is his right. But we lose a fantastic player in person and get a lot of money for him, which with only 1 year left. I think it's a deal where we only have winners on every side. We can replace him, and we must replace him to get a player who scores goals for us. I know that we have a few others in our team who must step up now. It's clear that we have this money, and we need this money for maybe bringing 2 more players into this squad that we need."
I mean, look, Mark, I echo everything that Ralph has said there, you know, in the sense that, you know, they definitely need a replacement. I think at the end of the day, he's putting way too much store, though, on, you know, not Shay Adams, because we've already discussed this before. You know, we'll have a front two who should be playing every Saturday, every league game for me, right? And that should never change, you know. But the problem is behind that, there's nothing. You know, you got Shane Long and you got Michael Omofemi, and unfortunately, Father Time's caught up with Shane and Michael Omofemi. I'm afraid, speed demon though he is, you know, he doesn't put the ball in the back of the net regularly at all. So, you know, therein lies the problem, and it's up to the club to address it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Ralph once referred to Michael Omofemi as a Formula One car. He's not a Formula One car, Ralph. He's a Nissan GTR. He's quick, but he doesn't have an end product.
Right. Okay. So, yeah. So, all I would say is, mate, as well, is very quickly, because I want to move on to the next story. But you know, it was a sad end. Obviously, there's been a bit of a difficult part in the waves, let's put it like that, between Danny Ings and the football club. And I say that given that there's been no reaction from the football club and very little reaction from Danny himself in terms of moving to Aston Villa.
My only take on it, Mark, is the fact that I think it's very telling that Mario Lemina, who's been a real problem child at Saints, actually got kind of a send-off from the club, wishing him well, and Danny Ings got absolutely nothing to date. So for me, I think that's very telling. Very, very telling. Yeah, the fact that he didn't get any kind of send-off and Lemina did, and Lemina's been a real problem child, I think that speaks volumes that something has happened between Danny Ings and the club, whatever that is. And obviously we're not privy to that. And we can't speculate because we just don't know. We can speculate all day, but it won't get us anywhere. It's done and we move on, don't we?
I mean, at the end of the day, the one thing you learn as a Saints fan is You have to be resilient at all times,
Yeah,
especially when the walls of Jericho are tumbling. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah, the other thing you learn as a Saints fan is stop putting players' names on your shirt.
Can you imagine all those poor people, right, who got the new shirt, right? Hell, I mean, one of my mates turned around and said to me, he said, "I'm just walking through West Keys, and you want to see the amount of people that are going the Levante game with Ings number 9 on the back of their shirt. All I would say to that is schoolboy error. Schoolboy error.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I stopped getting players' names on my shirts a very long time ago. The last player's shirt name I had on my shirt was Marian Pahars. It shows how long ago that was.
Good choice, though. Good choice.
Turned out to be a fantastic choice at the time, to be fair. Scored a lot of goals at my end of the stadium, where you now sit, funnily enough. So, anyway, moving on from there. Saints have completed a deal for Chelsea's Tino Livramento. Young fullback, Mark. I'll tell you what, he looks a prospect.
Well, certainly when I was sat, basically, I've got to say that it would seem that on the strength of it, yes, he is one of the products, and he was keen, obviously, to further his career, and Saints have taken advantage of that because obviously his pathway at Chelsea, like Darnell, who we featured a few weeks ago. The other, he's a centre half that was signed from Chelsea. A bit like Darnell, they've both realised that their pathway somewhat blocked at Chelsea, and hoping that won't be the case at Saints. I mean, all I would say is like, I wish them well, but I think we're putting a lot of store on these, especially on Tino himself. I'm sure he can respond to the pressure, mate, but
I will say, I know it's only pre-season, but the game he did feature in, I'll tell you what, not bad. We'll get to that, obviously, but
yes, we'll get to that next week, mate.
We certainly will.
But yeah. So
he signed a 5-year deal. Obviously, they've signed him on a permanent basis, everybody. So brace yourselves. That's a permanent deal. It's not a loan. Hang on a minute. That means Saints got a bit of money.
I can't get excited about it, mate. Even whatever way you want to sell it, I still can't get it.
I know.
I'm not
selling it. That's the
club, and I wish him well.
Yep.
But there's an awful lot of pressure on him because it is obvious that he is going to be, part of the first team squad, which means that when something goes wrong in the fullback department, he's going to be expected to step up and perform. In fact, Mark, I'm even going to suggest to you that there may be a chance that he might even play in the Everton game. I have nothing to back it up, but all I would say to you is Kyle Walker-Peters and himself can play either fullback role, so right back or left back. So, you just don't know. You just don't know,
Yep, I agree with that. Well, we'll see what happens, because obviously we brought Perot in as well. So that was obviously...
But the interesting thing, and I'll just roll it on, I mean, the other interesting thing was the other article where he's actually named the two Ronaldos as his basically his footballing heroes. Now, I can get down with Ronaldo of Brazil, but I struggle a little bit when it comes to Cristiano Ronaldo. But I mean, I was a bit of a, I wouldn't say fan, because obviously I wasn't a kid when Ronaldo was on the scene, but
in all fairness, with
sort of striker, goal scorer, I'll give him that.
But in all fairness, Mark, with a name like Tino Livramento, you either sound Italian or Portuguese. So I'm not overly surprised by that. Or even Brazilian, to be fair. Either of those nations, any of those three nations, with a name like Tino Livramento, you could quite easily play for any of them, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, 100%, my friend. Good spot.
So, moving on. The Saints have revealed the 2021-22 away kit at last. Yay! And I tell you what, it is a thing of beauty.
It is a thing of beauty. And it is the best. It is the best shirt this season. I mean, don't get me wrong. I quite like the. I'm a bit of a fan of the home shirt because it's a throwback. I think to when we first went to St Mary's, very similar in style to that. The home shirt, but you're right, mate. It's very, very simple. It's sort of a little bit of a throwback to when it was Draper Tools and we had even though it was a colour kit then under Hummel, or Admiral, sorry. But I've got to say that I really, really like it. And
it's definitely a throwback to that Draper Tools one.
In fact, it's got overboard about kits and tops and that, but no, I really like it.
Yeah, I like the fact it kind of, for me, it's a little bit of a nod to the 2003 FA Cup final kit. It's obviously a nod to the 76 FA Cup final kit because of the colours, but it's also a bit of a throwback to the last yellow and blue kit we had as well. So for me, I think it's a nice kit, and it's got that throwback to the 90s as well with the Draper Tools kit, the Admiral kit that had the flame effect. So it's got that yellow flame effect on the bottom of it. So yeah, I love it. Really, really good. And also off the back of that, Saints have launched the Hummel travel wear range, which I'm guessing that they want you to buy that and wear it when you go on holiday. Sorry, I won't be doing that.
No, well, you're hardly going to be travelling up as if you're part of the team, are you? Sit there and go, yeah, I'm going to change from my polo shirt into my football shirt.
Just going to put my Saints polo shirt on, see if I can sneak in.
But I've got to say, I'm not as impressed with this, Mark. I mean, you might say it's clean, it's sort of got a little bit of a classical look, but to me, it's plain, and it's a little bit dull. I don't mind the polo shirt so much, because you got the black collar against the grey body. But
it does actually say get kitted out with the same kit that Ralph Hasenhüttl side will wear throughout the season. So you can wear polo shirts and stuff like that the players and Ralph himself will be wearing. So something tells me there'd be a few people trying to sneak in off the old coach or whatever.
I mean, as I say. The other thing that's sort of slightly disappointing is none of it's my size. It only goes up to 2XL. I know it's a grape, but there you go. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yes, Will Ferry has signed a contract extension and joined Crawley Town on loan.
You see, this one baffles me, mate. In recent years, we keep doing this, right? So we go, here you go, sign a new contract. Everybody's all smiles. Oh, heading in the right direction with Saints, right? And then all of a sudden they get loaned out, right? They come back. I'm sorry, there's no pathway. You're going to have to move on to another club.
Yeah, Will, thanks for signing a new contract, Will. We've got bad news for you. We just signed this lad from Chelsea. He was the best player in their academy last season, and you're going to have to go to Crawley. Sorry, mate.
But this is the thing, Mark, right? It's don't get me wrong. Obviously I'm assuming through the scouts we're signing major talent here, right? But what does that say to the players that are coming through from the under 23s or the B team or whatever?
Oh, it tells me Matt Crocker's looked at you and gone, "You're rubbish."
Yeah, but hang on.
That's tongue in cheek. I don't think he said that at all.
Hang on now. You're rubbish, right? Kane Ramsey has done exactly the same thing this season, right? Signed a new contract, loaned out, right? Will Ferry signed a new contract, will loan you out. And I just sit there and I'm
funny enough, everybody, it's two young fullbacks.
Yeah. And I just sit there and I think to myself, I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't rate Kane Ramsey anyway. Obviously, the club have converted Will Ferry because Will Ferry came as a winger, not as a fullback, which baffled me when I read the article.
For Will Ferry, read Moussa Djenepo.
Yeah, something like that. So I'm if I just put myself in their shoes and think to myself, you'd be all smiles. When you're signing the contract and then they hit you with a double whammy. But the plan is to take you out on loan for the season. Now, I get it if it's experience, but normally, I mean, in recent years, anything that's happened with anybody, you look at the likes of, say, Callum Slattery, right? He was one, loaned out, made an initial impact, but loaned out, and now we've seen him go on a permanent to Motherwell, and I'm worried that the same thing's going to happen with these two, where players get involved in a general malaise, and even though they go out and get league experience, they come back and they're deemed not to be good enough to make it into the first team. And I kind of think to myself, could they not have made that decision before they signed a new contract and got sent out on loan? But maybe they think to themselves, okay, we'll take another look at you after you've had the experience out on loan with a league club.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it goes back to that question I asked at the Fans Forum ages ago, rather stupidly, when I said, do you think the pathway to the first team is blocked? But it most definitely is, in my opinion, but there you go.
Yeah,
anyway, moving on.
Yeah, but you asked it to the wrong person, Mark. You asked Les Reed it. I'm thinking to myself, that might be more prevalent now, but it wasn't then with Les Reed on the show.
Yeah, maybe I should have asked that question on the forum last night. I should have spoken to Adam Blackmore, shouldn't I? Anyway, moving on to Southampton women and match reports. Southampton women beating losing pre-season. They actually beaten 1-0, and then after that they also played Brighton and run out winners in the Brighton game as well. They actually beat Brighton 3-0. So two wins down on the south coast.
Let's look at this in the right sort of context. So, they've beat Lewis, who are in the same division as them. Yep. Admittedly, it wasn't a romp score. It was 1-0, but, they're in the same division this season. It bodes well. And then to follow that up days later, not a week later, days later, with a comprehensive victory over Brighton, and Brighton playing the Championship, which is the league above Saints. Can anything go wrong in their pre-season at all? I just think in the league they're going to take up where they left off, to be honest with you.
I think they're going to go from strength to strength. And talking of going from strength to strength, they're continuing to recruit from the Championship, because they've just announced the signing of Kira Watling. She's actually joined Southampton. So they continue to recruit players from the Championship, Mark. She's come from, is it Charlton, I believe?
Yeah, it was Charlton, mate. Yep.
So another really good signing for Marianne Spacey-Cow.
Yeah, like I say, mate, I suppose the most impressive thing is the two acquisitions that we've made. One's come from the Championship, and the other one, obviously, she come from the Championship, but she was actually playing Premier League football. Yep. The women's version of the Premier League football for Bristol City last season. So, like you said, it just seems to be that we're adding quality to a side already that has the upward momentum, and it's fantastic. Because the thing is, Mark, don't forget these girls have, and I don't use the word girls in patronising sense, so forgive me, but these women have jobs. They've got 9 to 5 jobs, which to go and do. It's not like football's, the professional and it's the bread and butter. Although obviously as they go further up the food chain, that's going to change. But it's just remarkable, and the dedication, Mark, that they're showing, and everything else, and we've seen Millie Mott and the other girl, and they're both, going to be playing for the under-18s women's team.
They will be. Pre-season's gone very well, and the final game they had in pre-season was actually on Sunday, the 8th of August. It was against the London Lionesses, and it was 2-2, Mark. So they've come out of pre-season with an unbeaten record.
Undefeated, and again, London Lionesses, I think they're actually, they were in the Premier League. They might have slipped down to the Championship, but well-established women's team. They used to be known as Millwall Lionesses. So that's you know, at the end of the day, they finished their pre-season undefeated, and you know, more. I mean, as I say, in terms of the women, we just seem to have gone from strength to strength, and that seems to be continuing. And,
well, all I can say is, Mark, I'm thoroughly looking forward to me and you getting over to the Snow Stadium at some point this season.
yeah, well, fingers crossed, mate. We'll come on to that in a minute as well. So anyway,
Saints Foundation there to celebrate their 20th anniversary, although it's not technically their 20th anniversary, Mark, is it?
no, because they went through a rebrand halfway through the 20 years, because obviously before they were known as the Saints Foundation, they were known as Saints in the Community. And I think the structure was somewhat different then to how it is now. But that doesn't mean to say that, you know, they've brought a lot of value to the local community over the last 20 years. And hopefully it will be a joyous occasion when it comes round the market.
So throughout the campaign, the coming campaign, Saints Foundation will be showcasing the evolution and impact of their work, highlight the stories of some of the many inspiring people who've transformed their lives with the foundation's support. You can help the charity mark its 20th year by getting involved with some exciting events taking place throughout the season. So be the first to find out what's going on by signing up to their mailing list using the form below. I'm fortunate enough to be on their mailing list, Mark, from a connection I had through grassroots football recently. So lucky enough to get a little bit of info from Saints Foundation these days, which is quite nice. But anyway, so that's good news, and I'm looking forward to their celebrations and seeing what happens there. And I might even join in with their little march they're doing. Seems quite apt. So, moving on to the next article, Saints announced St Mary's improvements. They've revealed exciting details behind a £2.5 million investment for planned improvements. These include installation of new screens, twice the size of the existing ones in the stadium, a couple of video walls, one in the Kingsland, one in the Itchen, lots of other improvements, including locally sourced new menu in the concourses, including craft beers, everyone, and improved signage, digital signage, etc. around the stadium. It's going to be rolled out over the course of the season, so you'll see things starting to happen over the next few months, although it won't all happen in one go. But I can imagine it's been a massive headache for those people at the club that have been involved in doing that. But
I would have thought so. I mean, you know, I get that obviously it's improvement for the fans. I'd argue, is it actually needed? I mean, there was signage. Signage was brought in only three years ago. There was new signage put up around the stadium. So,
although I must say, Mark, the big part for me that I'm really excited about and I'm really happy to see is the history side of the club. And the fact they're focusing on that now. They're going to have a new honours board for players past and present, so captains, goal scorers, etc. All those honours. And they've also got a captain's board, I believe. It's going up, and I think it might be in the reception area at the stadium. So it'd be great to see the history of the club actually being at the forefront again, because that's something we've been asking for quite a while.
Look, anything like that, mate, that endorses the history, you know, of course you're on board with it. The only thing is, you know, the Communal Garden Variety supporter isn't going to see any of that. Right. I mean, obviously, I read the article and then I thought to myself, I quite like to see a bit of that in the chapel or wherever.
Yep.
But obviously, we won't necessarily be seeing it.
Yep.
The craft beer, I mean, hopefully that's a winner for the club. I don't know too much. I mean, obviously, all the food stuff would sound like it's going to be locally sourced. So
it's not a criticism of the club, Mark, because obviously they're not the ones that did it. But I'm hoping the craft beer is an improvement on the 76 because I'm not a big fan of that. It's not the nicest thing I've ever drunk.
I don't know. I've never tasted it, mate. To be honest with you.
But anyway, so moving on to the next article. This is an article we were going to cover, which is support guidance for safely visiting St Mary's. I'm not actually going to go into this one due to the fact that the guidance is actually evolving on a daily basis within the Premier League. So it's really hard to give you information, everybody, without giving you the wrong information. And obviously, we don't want to give you the wrong information. So I'm not actually going to go into that in detail. But the guidance will be out very shortly for those of you attending Premier League matches this season. So moving on to Everton versus Saints, Mark. Tough opening game for the start of the season, although it looks as though Everton might be missing some key players, including Richarlison. But we'll get to that in a later show. But this obviously relates to the tickets themselves and the kickoff for it. So Saints kick off the Premier League season away to Goodison Park, away to Everton at Goodison Park, I should say. Tickets go on sale in following order from the 3rd of August through to the 6th of August. So 3rd of August, season ticket holders with 6 or more away games, followed by 5 or more, 4 or more, 3 or more, 2 or more, 1 or more. And then 6th of August, they go on general sale to everyone. So obviously Friday, which is just gone, you were able to get them on general sale. So if you still haven't got your tickets for Everton, snap them up quick. And I know Mark's not going, but he's got a couple of people who are. And we look forward to seeing what the comeback is from there, Mark. So moving on to the last article in this segment of the show. Sorry about that. Bit of a lump in my throat there. Southampton Football Club is saddened to learn of the passing of Terry Cooper, aged 77. An England international in his playing days, he was a classy and dependable left-back who won 20 caps between 1969 and 74. A Leeds legend, he racked up 351 appearances for the Whites, scoring the winning goal in the 1968 League Cup final against Arsenal, and was a key member of the First Division title triumph the following season. He later played for Middlesbrough, Bristol City, Bristol Rovers and Doncaster, and also managed both Bristol clubs in the 80s, before taking charge of Exeter and Birmingham. His first allegiance to Southampton came when he joined the club as an assistant to Graham Souness in 1996-97, along with Phil Bursma, with the trio having first crossed paths as teammates at Middlesbrough 2 decades prior. He stayed with the club even after Souness' departure, serving as a long-standing scout, mainly in Europe. The thoughts of everybody at Southampton FC are with Terry's family and loved ones. Terry Cooper, 12th of July 1944 to the 31st of July 2021. Another Saint who sadly has joined the Halo Lounge in the sky. So commiserations and best wishes to your friends and family, Terry, at this very sad time.
Yeah, no, I echo that, mate. I mean, just from my point of view, I mean, in regards to Saints, obviously, he came to the club when Graham Souness was appointed, but unlike Graham Souness, you know, he stuck around. I think he was still on the payroll till about 2010 mark. Obviously, he was a scout, and you know, the other thing that I was going to say was, like, you know, obviously he's got a son that's involved in the game. I think he's taken over. He was at Forest Green, but I think he's taken over as manager at Barrow. Mark, they call the son. But yeah, no, it's very, very sad to hear about it. And like you say, you know, just loads of condolences to the family at this time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think, you know, you can undervalue the contribution that he made to Saints. I know one or two Robins fans, that's Bristol City fans, and you know, he's much loved there. Basically because he was manager. You know, at a time when the club looked like it was going out of business, and he managed to put them back on the right rails, so to speak. So, you know, he's looked at as very much legend status in Bristol, if you're from the red part of the city.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it's just really sad, mate.
It is. Yeah, and we've lost some very good former Saints and people connected with the club over the last couple of years, Mark, haven't we? So yeah, just adds to the long list of greats and legends and great people that have been associated with the football club. So anyway, that brings to an end that section of the show today. So we're going to take a very short break, and coming up in the second half, we have other football news, Saints in the press, and Saints transfer gossip. We'll be right back.
The Two Saints Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday for informative football chat and great tunes.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, other football news, and we start in the Premier League with transfers. Arsenal signed Ben White for £50 million. Villa signed winger Bailey from Leverkusen. Bristol Palace signed Denmark's Anderson. And West Ham signed PSG keeper Areola. And then general Premier League news. Premier League wants all clubs to trial COVID policy. The following story from that is Premier League TV rights government allows top flight to roll over existing deal. And players will continue to take the knee. So we'll start with the transfers in the Premier League. And Ben White to Arsenal for £50 million, Mark.
So yeah, it was probably one of the worst kept secrets. We keep saying this because this one rolled on for a while as well. Because basically, it would seem that the transfer fee had been agreed while Ben was on holiday, and then obviously he's come back from holiday, and they've done the promotional shop for him, holding up the shirt and all the rest of it. Look, bottom line for Arsenal is it's a good signing. They've probably played over the odds for me. I mean, yes, he had a good season for Brighton in the Premier League last season. Before that, he was playing Championship football for Leeds. He seemed to play well in the England friendly up in Middlesbrough before the Euros that he played in. But really, at the end of the day, would I have paid 50 million for him? No, I wouldn't have paid 50 million for him. I probably would have paid 25, maybe 30 at a stretch, and then we'll see where we go from there. But I'm sure that he will bring stability to an Arsenal defence that, in recent years have been a bit leaky. Hopefully he brings a bit of organisation to it.
Absolutely. And Aston Villa have signed Jamaican winger Leon Bailey from Bayer Leverkusen for 25 million.
Well, this must be a misprint, because according to the legions of Saints fans out there, he was on his way to Southampton. As I keep saying, let's talk about the market that we can work in. But let's be honest, 25 million for Leon Bailey, it's a bit less, to be honest, than what I was expecting him to go to the 30 million that was being reported. So remains to be seen, of course, whether they've got any sort of bargain. He's probably all the money. He's a winger. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how Villa go, because obviously, it would look like they're going to be losing Mr. Grealish. And obviously, we've seen Danny Ings leave Southampton as a result of that. We've seen Leon Bailey go in there. They've obviously signed Ben Dia from Norwich City. And really, at the end of the day, Aston Villa is going to be so much of an unknown quantity, really, going into the season. Yep. But obviously, they're showing their intent at the main business, and they're trying to push up the table.
Yep. So move on to Crystal Palace. Joachim Andersen. Crystal Palace signed Denmark international from Lyon. They've signed Denmark international defender Joachim Andersen on a 5-year contract from French club Lyon. He spent last season on loan at Fulham Mooney Captains, which saw the side relegated to the Championship. He joined the Premier League side for an undisclosed fee reported to be around £20 million. I'm extremely proud to be joining Crystal Palace, he said, and to be playing in the world's best football league. The management of the club and Patrick Vieira give me very strong assurance that they know my qualities. Well, you played alongside Yannick Vestergaard and you got to the semi-finals of the Euros, so you've done something right.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say about Joachim Andersen is he was playing well in a struggling Fulham side that were conceding goals, and he was in there playing for them. He was on loan from Lyon at the time, and he did it. I mean, it's a strange one because obviously Fulham ultimately got relegated, but probably him and I'd say Lookman, Daniel Lookman, impressed me the most from the Fulham team. I'm not surprised that obviously, Joachim Andersen has been snapped up, so to speak. Again, I wish him well. He looks steady Eddie, to be honest with you, in terms of central defender. Interestingly though, Mark, I mean, Crystal Palace have now spent 40-odd million on 2 centre-backs. They brought in the lad who was on loan at Swansea last season, Mark Gueye. And, obviously he's joined them from Chelsea. Be interesting to see how Crystal Palace go, but it's. I think it's good to see Joachim Andersen back in the Premier League because I do think, as I say, he was definitely one of the better players for Fulham last season. And we'll see how he goes at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, so talking about players that are good, that it's good to see back in the Premier League, Mark, and obviously those that have been in the Premier League and done quite well. Alfonso Areola has joined West Ham from PSG. He was obviously on loan at Fulham last season, along with Joachim Andersen, and played quite well for them. I thought it was a shame Saints didn't go in for him, actually.
Yeah,
he's at West Ham on loan.
It's ironic that we end up talking about two Fulham players that were on loan, right? They ended up getting relegated, and we're both sat there going, but both of these individuals played well for themselves. There's an irony there somewhere. But what I was going to say, Mark, one thing that I did pick up on was if you're a Premier League fantasy manager, right? I mean, you're struggling if you've picked Fabianski already, because surely it's going to be hard for David Moyes to pick between Areola and Fabianski. I mean, that's going to be a right headache, And if you've decided to go for West Ham, for one of the West Ham goalkeepers, it's an even bigger headache. You're playing Fantasy League. But no, it's a good signing, but you kind of think to yourself, are they going to be rotating, next season? I mean, obviously, the other thing that you can say is, and I forgot all about it, is obviously West Ham have a Europa League campaign to play, because they're already qualified for the group stages. So be interesting to see who's playing the most majority of the games and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on now to general Premier League news. The Premier League wants all clubs to trial COVID policy. Yeah, Premier League TV rights government are allowed to allow the top flight to roll over their existing deal, and players will continue to take the knee.
Right. So first of all, in relation to this one's a little bit ironic because we were speaking about this before we went the air, right? But Premier League wants all Premier League clubs, right, to follow the guidelines that they've set out, or policy-wise. And the thing is like we've just spoken about it, I think there'll be different degrees of what's being followed until there's some sort of universal thing come in from the government. That's just my take on it.
No, I think that's probably just about spot on, Mark, in all fairness, to be fair. So,
I mean, I can't really think about anything else to say on it, Mark, because
me either.
I mean, we've seen that, there's clubs obviously out there that are taking it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it's very straightforward, Mark. I've seen less grey areas in rain clouds, to be fair.
Very well put. So anyway, moving on. I mean, this one was interesting as well, right? And the thing is the Premier League clubs can't moan, right? Because basically the government have done a bit of protectorism here for them, right? Because basically, because they've decided to extend the existing deal that there is at the minute, right? And it's believed, obviously, through the existing deal, the clubs are going to be getting more money, right? Whereas if it had went out to tender, they would have got less. It was being predicted that they were going to get less money. So effectively, the government have done, the Premier League clubs a favour by keeping the existing deal in a rollover. And that's all basically that there is to report about that. I mean, similarly, going on to the next article, I mean, taking the knee, it's an easy one for me, Mark. I mean, at the end of the day, right, we had people, individuals, and even clubs turning around and saying, I think it was Wilfried Zaha, and he just stands, right? And then we had other clubs that turned around and said they weren't going to do it, right? And the irony of all of this, right, because I'm a supporter of taking the knee, I'll keep consistently saying that unless somebody comes up with something else, right, and I haven't seen anything better that's been suggested, right, they should continue to take the knee. Yeah. The thing that's ironic is right? Brentford, funnily enough, in the Championship last season, didn't take the knee. But of course, now they've been promoted to the Premier League, they're saying as from this season forward, as long as I'm assuming as long as they're in the Premier League, they're going to be taking the knee. Anyway, apart from that, just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Unbelievable. So moving on to Scottish football and European football. So Scottish football, Celtic sign Hart and McCarthy, and European football, Barcelona, Real Madrid and Juventus will continue with their plans for a European Super League. There's a surprise.
The Celtic signings, I mean, at the end of the day, Postecoglou, the manager, he's gone in there. Australian, obviously of Greek heritage. He's gone in there and basically the recruitment that was needed doing hadn't even really started at the end of the day. So he's gone in there. I think in terms of solid signings, experience, that's a fairly good start base. Because I think Celtic have got a lot of work to do. I personally think that the Scottish title this year might be a little bit more open than just Celtic and Rangers. So, in terms of kick-starting the process for recruiting players for Celtic, I mean, obviously Postecoglou has started that, and they're two kind of solid, experienced signings.
Yep. Okay.
And then the next story, I mean, this is ridiculous, Mark, and it's all because they won their court case against UEFA. It just goes to show how weak UEFA really are. So you've got Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Juventus won their case against having sanctions imposed on them by UEFA. And as a consequence of that, they have now decided that they're going to continue with their plans to form the Super League. And all I'm going to say is, because we're not due to cover it, but all I'm going to say to you is right, I have no sympathy for Barcelona, Real Madrid, or any of these big spending clubs, right, to go out there and to buy all the Galacticos, the top players. Even, the thing is, and this is how ridiculous football's getting, right? Man City, right, is owned by a state. Basically, they're a royal family, from where they come from, right? And it's a state-run football club. It's the same with Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, I sit there, right, and I know I'm going slightly off base here, but I'm trying to put across a certain thing. Football has got ridiculous because Paris Saint-Germain now have Lionel Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar as their front line, right? Okay. Now, I want someone to explain to me how they can have that as a front line and all the other stars they've got, by the way, that I haven't mentioned, right? And yet they're all within financial fair play. Yet Barcelona, this is how bad it was with them, right? Messi actually wanted to stay, had a change of heart, wanted to stay at the football club, whatever it was, he wanted to stay anyway. And he said, right, and Barcelona looked at it, tried to see what they could do. He actually offered to take a 50% wage cut, right? And they still couldn't afford to pay him.
It's ironic as well.
Pay him the money.
It's ironic as well that he's ended up at Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah, but I just sit there, Mark, and I think to myself, at the end of the day, these clubs have spent money that they didn't have, right? So they were living well outside their means. And yes, historically, they're the grand clubs of Europe, right? But I don't feel sorry for them, and I feel sorry for the supporters, but they must have knew these days were going to come. You can't run a business. I mean, we're told they're businesses. You can't run a business like that. only in football, mate. Only in football. But like I said, Paris Saint-Germain, right? They're run by a small country, and the same with Manchester City, and that's the way football's going. It's not even one individual owner anymore,
No,
it's basically run by a country or the wealth
yeah,
of
no, absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So moving on now to Saints in the news. I see him here this season. Hassan Hootel says Djenepo's availability as a left back is a bonus. It really isn't. Jake Vokin suffers an injury setback. It's due to have an operation. Saints legend Franny Benali finally awarded an MBE for raising 1.2 million for cancer charity. Yeah, if he was from Liverpool or anywhere, he'd probably get anointed. And Walker Peters wants Saints to keep hold of top player James Ward-Prowse. Moussa Djenepo at left back. No, thank you, Ralph. That experiment didn't work last season.
We've been here before. It was actually 2 seasons ago, Mark, but
yep.
we've been here before when he put Moussa at left back away at Sheffield United. Basically, he struggled for the whole of the first half, and then Ralph decided at half time to move him further up the pitch to his wing position, and he actually ended up scoring the winner. But it does baffle me, and he was even talking about it last night on the fans forum, and I'm sat there going, you still haven't ditched that idea at all, Ralph, have you? You're still determined that, when need be, you're going to play him at left back. So anyway, watch this space, Saints fans.
So Jake Vokin's injury setback, Mark, is due to have an operation.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I'm going to tie my colours to the mast on this one. I mean, obviously looked like he had a promising future, especially when he played in the third round FA Cup game a few seasons back with Will Smallbone. They both made their debut. I think it was Huddersfield Town we played. We won 2-0. And the thing is, for me, is that, Jake is at that crossroads, I suppose, in his career. And the other problem is that, at a time when he's looking to kick on, he keeps having stop-start problems. Went up to Sunderland, got injured. Then he got COVID while he was at Sunderland. And then just as he looks like he's, I think he made one appearance and by all accounts it was, they were pleased with it. Malky Mackay at Ross County. And then all of a sudden this has happened, and I just worry that he's sort of going to go the same way as a Sam McQueen or somebody of that ilk, because obviously it did look promising at one stage, and now it just seems to be that injuries and other things that have happened have compounded his career.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So we move on to some better news that Saints legend Franny Benali has been awarded an MBE for raising 1.2 million for cancer charity. Yeah, and he still didn't get to meet the Queen, or even get it presented in the same hall as everyone else. Unbelievable.
I mean, to be surely
even when he gets recognition,
if you're going to be awarded anything in terms of these kind of awards or knighthoods or MBEs and OBEs and all the rest of it, right? Surely, first of all, you get it done in the hall, right? I mean, it looked from the photograph that I seen that, Franny was awarded his MBE in a back room somewhere. And then the worst thing of all was, we're probably talking about 9th or 10th in line to the throne. I mean, come on. Even if the Queen's not there, surely William can step in and do her duties for her. Do you know what I mean? Maybe the Queen wasn't feeling well that day.
If he'd been from Liverpool, or Man City, or part of the Euro 2020 squad, he would have been awarded by the Queen in the hall.
But it's all I'm saying is, Mark, right, is I can appreciate that the Queen may not be feeling well, but that for the substitute to be Princess Anne, and this is no disrespect to the Princess Royal, right? But she's probably 10th in line to the throne, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, are you telling me that there was nobody between 2 and 9 that was available to hand Franny as MBE? Look,
you know what it is, don't you? I'll tell you what it is. I've worked it out, Mark. I know exactly what it is. I know why the Queen didn't present it. It's because she saw what Peter Rodriguez did with his hands on his shorts before he shook hands with her and collected the FA Cup in '76. She noticed his hands were dirty because she saw him rubbing on his shorts. That's what it is.
He was trying to clean his hands up before she presented the cup to him. But what I was going to say was, Mark, all joking aside, right? Let's not belittle the achievement.
No, not at all.
The thing is the man isn't just, the charity and everything else, but obviously it reflects so well on the city and the work that Franny does. I mean, he still is approachable. He's still humble. And
to coin a phrase, and I can't remember who used the phrase, but to coin a phrase, the boy done good.
Oh yeah, and the thing is it's just disappointing from our point of view because we would have liked to have seen him get the whistles and bells,
Absolutely. Yep.
But no, Franny, well done, and obviously, we're proud as Punch. Well, we're proud. We're happy for you, and we're proud in the sense of, it's good recognition for the city.
Absolutely right. And I'd just like to say, as a bit of a side note, being a member of a certain committee, I'd just like to say it's fantastic that the SDSA, the Saints Disabled Supporters Association, has Franny Benali MBE as an ambassador. Fantastic. So we look forward to seeing you at one of our open days, Franny, and congratulating you personally. That'd be great. So anyway, moving on.
How much money crossed hands for that little plug, by the way?
I'll let you know off air. Anyway, moving on. Kyle Walker-Peters wants Saints to keep hold of top player James Ward-Prowse. Well, so far, Kyle, it looks as though you're going to get your wish.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, now that Danny Ings is gone, the club would be, I do think there would be some sort of mini revolt within the supporter base if they decided to sell.
The peasants are revolting.
Same window.
Yeah, it'd be the peasants are revolting. Yeah, they certainly are.
But no, I mean, we all know that at the end of the day, if one of your better players go, they're not going to sell, one of your other better players in the same window. Absolutely right.
Yep, absolutely bang on the money, Mark. So yeah, the captain is here to stay. There we go. That brings us to the end of that section. So we're going to take a very short break now. And when we come back, we're going to do Saints transfer gossip for the last part of the show.
You're listening to the Two Saint Show on Fiesta 95 FM with Mark C and Mark H.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, Saints transfer gossip. All possible ins this week. Southampton want to sign Chelsea player with 108 Premier League appearances. Spurs player in Southampton radar. Report Burnley and Southampton want loan for Tottenham ace Tanganga. Arsenal target Abdul Abdulmalik has now joined Southampton on trial. Southampton hand trial to Bournemouth player after recent contract development. Crystal Palace and Southampton looking at Thomas Delaney. And West Ham to battle Premier League rival for 20-year-old powerhouse who's up for sale. So starting with Saints want to sign Chelsea player with 108 Premier League appearances, Mark. I can't help thinking that somebody might have actually got the wrong player.
Well, I think that the first three stories in these transfer roundups basically are
rubbish.
Well, what it is Mark, is the regurgitated stories, right? Because I think it was last summer we're interested in Loftus-Cheek. Last summer we're interested in Harry Winks.
Yep.
So as I say, I'm fairly dismissive of probably the first three stories on there. I mean, we're being linked with, now, obviously, Tanganga interests me because obviously he's the right sort of age and the sort of player that we would go for. And they're talking about a loan deal. But again, he was linked to us in the January and last summer as well. And you just kind of think to yourself, it must have been a slow day in the offices. And they've basically just turned around and said, right, let's put the Loftus-Cheek story out. Let's put the Harry Winks story out. And let's put the Tanganga story out again, because they've been interested in the past. And why wouldn't they be interested again?
Absolutely. So moving on to the next guy, and this guy actually featured in a recent friendly mock for the under-23s, Abdul Malik, and he actually scored twice. He's actually on trial with Saints at the moment. Don't know if that's developed any further at this moment in time, but it's Abdul Malik's joined them on loan. And also, they've handed a trial to Bournemouth player Jake Adams. I can't help thinking if we get another Adams in the team at the moment, it'd be quite a mouthful for the commentators. So I don't know what's going to happen with that one. He's quite a young player, but got offered a contract with Bournemouth, obviously turned it down, and Saints have offered him a trial. That'd be interesting to see if anything happens on that one.
Kind of the interesting thing with these two is, you know, we've seen already with the likes of, you know, Tino and Darnell joining us from Chelsea. That basically, you know, the club are looking around. They're looking at young, even loan players and stuff like that there. And I think I can basically hit the nail on the head with both of these, Mark. In relation to the recruitment, obviously both of these would be, again, just the lad from Arsenal. You know, it would be for the play in the under-23s, which is our B team now. And obviously we do need players that are a little bit cut above. And it would seem that this lad from Arsenal is. You know, I know that the guy that they're interested from Bournemouth, he couldn't, you know, it's very similar to the Arsenal guy. Again, it's younger players that can't agree terms with their prospective clubs. So basically, they end up turning around and saying, no, those terms aren't acceptable. I want to go and try my luck somewhere else. So obviously, we've got them on trial. I would say both players, you know, I mean, look, let's be honest about it. That definitely probably would improve the B team, especially going on last season's results. I mean, you know, I dare say you'd be an improvement for the B team at the minute. But, you know, but the thing is like, at the end of the day, they're being sensible about it in recruitment. Obviously, they're looking at these people. Hopefully, you know, one or two of them can be tied down to a contract with Saints, of course, if they're good enough. But, I mean, hopefully as well, you would hope that, you know, both or either or of them would be, you know, good for the under-23s, good for the B team, you know, and maybe, just maybe, you know, in the future, they might get a look in the first team.
Absolutely. So moving on to Crystal Palace and Southampton, both interested in Thomas Delaney, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, I've made my position fairly straightforward on this. I mean, if we could do a deal for Thomas Delaney, you know, admittedly we have people like Oriol Romeu in the first team and things like that there, and you know, and the experience is invaluable. Don't get me wrong, and you've got, you know, Fraser Forster and people like that, but I do think that, given the sort of positions that we're looking at and given his relative experience, you know, I dare say internationally as well, you know, to me, in terms of what we're looking to recruit, I think he would be an ideal recruitment. I mean, hopefully he wouldn't want too much money and it would fall within our budget, but certainly the fact that he's in the final year of his contract at Borussia Dortmund, you know, suggests that we wouldn't have to, you know, probably about 6 million, you know, which to me isn't a lot for a player of Thomas Delaney's stature. Yes, there is the danger that he, as he gets older, he might get a little bit more injury prone. But, the club always talk about experience. We've brought in the likes of Oliver Lancashire and Theo Walcott, over the summer. But the thing is, somebody like a Thomas Delaney to me, I mean, yes, he'd be playing, in the first team or when he's called upon. But, if we're talking about influence or people for younger players to look up to, that's your man right there, So it'd be interesting to see if they make a move for him. I mean, I would have thought, even after listening to the fans forum last night, that, I get the impression that Ralph is kind of still interested because he's still talking about that kind of player in terms of recruitment. So we'll have to just wait and see.
I'll see. So moving on to the next article, Southampton and West Ham United are weighing up moves to sign highly rated Nice defender Flavius Danilius this summer. According to the Daily Mail, the Austria under-21 captain impressed the Premier League side with his efforts in League One last season as he enjoyed his first taste of senior football. He came from Bayern Munich to Le Ajon in July 2020 after 6 years in the Bayern Munich academy without a first-team game. They actually wanted to retain him before he departed for France with the offer of a new contract. He elected to join a Nice team that were then led by Patrick Vieira to kickstart his career, a decision that proved to pay off with 26 senior appearances, starting 18 in all competitions. So he could be departing Nice either on loan or permanently. I do know Saints obviously said they wanted another centre-half, Mark, so I don't know, young, potential, maybe they'll sign somebody of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, obviously, even before there's any other kind of developments, I mean, Saints have been, or Ralph has been fairly consistent this summer in saying that he would be interested in, irrespective of what happens, of bringing in, defensive cover or defensive midfielder, whether that be a centre half or, like I said, defensive midfielder. But this one's interesting, obviously, because you've got the Austrian connection. Before people go into meltdown, we're not talking about another Kevin Danzo here. We're talking about a player who obviously played in the Bayern Munich B team, and then to further his career, he decided to move to Nice in France. He played nearly all of last season as a centre half for them. Obviously, you've got the Austrian connection. It's feasible. It's certainly somebody that, looking by the terms of recruitment that we've done this summer, certainly somebody that I would imagine would be on Saints' radar. And it's obvious that it's somebody that you would like to think that Ralph's aware of, with him being Austrian.
Absolutely. Right, well, that brings us to the end of the Two Saints podcast show today. So all that's left for me to say is goodbye from me.
As goodbye from me. Just, as I say, take care of one another, be kind, and hopefully you'll tune in and listen to Mark and I's dulcet tones next week on the pod.
Absolutely. And just a reminder for you, the league codes for the Classic and Head-to-Head Fantasy League and where to go to register and join in. So it's fantasypremierleague.com, the Two Saints podcast show. Classic League code is MQAFOS. And the Head-to-Head League code is I4FD0Y. And the ways to access the podcast version of the Two Saints show are as follows. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints podcast show is now available via Spotify, Soundcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. And the Two Saints Podcast Show email address is The Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com. That's for questions or any future features you'd like to see. So all that's left for me to say is join us again next week when the two Saints go marching in again. More exciting content coming your way. Bye for now.